What's going on, world? This is the 100 TV. As always, back with another one. True speak, true talk, real transparent experience. Explain. We talk about prison. We talk about politics. We talk about mental health. We talk about the stuff that matters. If you know anything about my story, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I fell in love with Atlanta. Virginia raised me, or Virginia made me, but Chicago raised me. This brother today, man, he's from back home. He's from Chicago. Got introduced to him through Dame that was up here previously. Go ahead and introduce yourself, brother.
Hello, world. Sinatra Pool, also known as Sinatra Black Mamba, like Kobe. My fight name. How y'all doing?
Peace, peace. Um, we talk about everything like I just said, but today, as the themes of these podcasts have been, we've been getting into prison, we've been getting into the success stories, we've been getting on to the horror stories that happens behind those walls. We really just trying to wake people up, and really give them a different perspective, man. So today, I want to talk to you. We've had people from Chicago, previously. Now we got people from VA. Oh, we got a question for you real quick before I get into it. Excuse me.
Okay.
Chicago, we've had people from VA. Quick question for you. He says boxer MMA.
I do MMA, but I'm just recently signed on for bare knuckle, so I'll be on the bare knuckle scene real soon.
My man is definitely not scared. What type of mentality, real quick before I get into it, what type of mentality do you have to be a fighter? And did you always have that?
Yeah, I grew up defending all my friends growing up. I was a real skinny kid, so like you know how it is. People always trying because you're skinny, and so I grew up just fighting for myself, and then I had a big family with a bunch of cousins. They used to make us fight each other all the time, a bunch of male cousins. So to me, it was like second nature. I was like, man, I'm getting paid to fight. Why not? So the
All
mentality, it got to be the mentality, like the way I think of it every time before I get in the cage is kill or be killed.
right. And like I was saying, it's good to have. We got different people from different places. You coming from Chicago? You just mentioned kill or be killed. I'm from Chicago. I don't know exactly where you grew up in the city,
Right.
but I'm just thinking about some of the things I've witnessed, experienced. You growing up, you just talked about fighting, growing up in it. Some people can't relate to that. They
Right. Yeah.
about fighting the cousins or being in the backyard. They don't know about slap boxing. So that's one experience you had. What are some other experiences you had that shaped or kind of led you, to where you're at?
Uh, man. I see my mom defend the family a lot. My mom she was ruthless. Back in the day when I was a shorty, I remember seeing her before. Like my aunts, or my uncles would call her when they was in trouble, like with their spouse or something. And like I didn't see her before. We was growing up. My younger years, I was living with my mom on the west side of Chicago, and I remember one of my aunts called her because her boyfriend was beating her up, and I remember her just rushing over to their house, and like they had that, back then they had them little gates that came around across the front of the door with the
Yeah,
lock on it. And I remember seeing her break it down and get up in there, like, what I'm saying? My mom just didn't play, what I'm saying? So I always seen my mom defending, and she didn't take play no games with anybody, male or female. So that was one of the early things. And then just, my dad used to get in a lot of scraps growing up. He used to take me around the neighborhood by my granny house. My granny lived on the south side in Calumet City. So he would just like make stories up to make me fight different kids in the neighborhood, stuff like that.
all right. We gonna definitely come back to that. I want to talk about what we talked about, why we started sending texts back and forth, why you decided you wanted to be a part of this, getting voices out, that word behind the wall. You ended up doing some time in prison. Can you tell everybody how much time you did, and if you want, you can share your crime or what happened, how'd you end up there, anything like that you might want to.
Okay. Yeah, well, I did time in 2002. I was no, I was 20 years old. It was like a few months before I turned 21. I was growing up. I was living on the west side with my mom for a while. Then my mom couldn't really. It was just my mom by herself. So then I moved in with my grandmother, and she lived in Kell Stream in the suburbs. So when I went out there, it was like a culture shock. You know what I'm saying? It was all like pretty much a lot of more white people than I was used to. So it was kind of rough going to school out there. It was back and forth. Maywood, Kill Stream. Then I finally moved back there with my mom for a while. It was by then I was 20 years old. Had started getting a lot of trouble with my homies. Stopped going to school. I had picked up sticking up somehow. I picked up sticking up people like sticking up drug dealers. So this one time I go on to stick up and I stuck this dude up and like we was leaving and it was like broad daylight and he called the police as I was running across the street and seeing us a car we jumped in. And as we coming back up the road, this was like in the suburbs somewhere. And as we coming back down the street, we get swooped on by the police and shit. I had got caught with the gun and got like 8 years for that. And ended up having to do 42 months.
So you did 42 months going
They gave me an armed robbery with a firearm.
on robbery farm. Same thing with me. Hey, let me tell you something. I don't know who I was. I think I was talking to Freddie Williams, somebody else that was up here. That window, 18 to 21, when we were first getting out of high school, when we first started really feeling ourselves, so many of us got knocked in that period.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Um,
it's unfortunate.
yeah, it's a scary statistic when it comes to like prison. Like what they say, school to prison.
School to prison pipeline. Yep.
Up. It's an ironic drug dealer calling the police after getting robbed.
Yeah, I know it's crazy, isn't it? But
And
yeah, and I was in the station like, man, okay, cool. Y'all somebody called and I'm like, y'all know he's selling drugs. It was a hotel room, and they didn't even give a damn. They just wanted to catch me because again, I was a young black kid. Me and my homeboys that was with me was black, and we stuck up. The dude we poked was a white dude. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what time it was.
question, you better bet it. So you in a situation, they swoop down on you, you get put in the back of the squad car, right?
Yeah.
All right. I want to go to that moment for a second.
Mm-hmm.
What were your thoughts right then when you were sitting in the squad car? I know for me, I wasn't in the back of the squad car. I actually turned myself in. I didn't want to run. And for me, once the cuffs went on, I think that's when the switch really got hit. Like it weren't even all the way real to me yet. But once the cuffs got put, but it might have been different for you. I've heard different answers, different.
Well, I mean, it was nerve wracking. I'm not gonna lie because you know they when they pulled us over, the town was Darien. And man, it was so many police officers. It's a white town. They don't got too much action going out there. You know what I'm saying? They get a call. A robbery just happened. Two black males running across the street. They own it. You know what I mean? So I ain't know what to think, bro, because they came with choppers, helicopters, and all type of shit. So I'm like, man, they get out of the car, gun, you know what I'm saying? Everybody put their hands out the window, type shit. So for me, I was like, man, I was not trying to move any quick way because I didn't want to get killed. Like in my homeboy car we was in had tinted windows, so they had exited everybody out of the car. They didn't even know I was still in the back seat because the window was tinted so dark because I was in the back. My homeboy had some sounds. I'm in the back trying to stash the gun somewhere. So I finally stashed it in between like the back of his car with the speakers and the amp. You know how people put their amp on the back of their speaker box? I had wrapped it in a shirt and put it on top of that and like closed it up. So by the time I got out of the car, man, like I was just so nervous that they wouldn't just shoot me. You know what I'm saying? It was just a bunch of nerves. I was like, man, I just didn't want to get killed at that moment. You know what I'm saying? So I got out of the car, and once they came and cuffed me up, I just knew I was going. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be sitting down for a while. You know what I'm saying? It was just it was what it was.
Yeah, I know. I, this is what I know. What from what I've heard, I caught my charges in Commonwealth, Virginia. Robbery out there, one robbery could do you.
Mm,
Know how Chicago, I heard it weren't that bad,
right.
but where I was at, man. So, hey, to anybody out there, learn the laws, know what you're dealing with.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's rule number one.
yeah, but and be willing to deal with the extent, man. Hopefully, you don't even go that route. Don't go to
And
don't do
that was not to cut you off, but that was one of the things like I had took. Man, my mom's used to always tell me, don't, and it's kind of cliche because you hear it a lot. People that say it. I don't know. Back when we was shorties, don't do the crime, you can't do the time. My mom used to say that to us all the time. Don't be out here in these streets expecting, and then when everything go haywire, you want to pretend like you holier than thou. So at the time, my rappies, two of them actually came to court on me, and I knew I was going down because just the dudes I was with, what I'm saying, they wasn't cut from that cloth, they wasn't in the streets like that. So I knew it. And I even tried to get them to be cool when we got to the station. Like, man, don't y'all say nothing. I'm gonna take the fall, but they still was started talking as soon as we hit the station. So I knew I was going down.
So you know you going down. You going now. You're at the jail. What jail were you at?
I was in DuPage County for my first bid.
Okay. Did you ever touch Cook County?
Yes, my second bid I was in Cook.
What's the difference between DuPage County and Cook County? A lot of people hear about Cook County. Cook County, they see it.
Cook
What
County is Cook County is goddamn it gladiator school. You know what I'm saying? Like that you it's if you plug, you're dealing with that, you know what I'm saying? Then not only that, you're dealing with some COs, you ain't getting fed no good food, you know what I'm saying? It's high alert
yeah,
every day, all day, you know what I'm saying? And it's no chill, it ain't no like in DuPage, you ain't gotta worry about nothing. It ain't really too much popping off in DuPage. It's kind of sweet, you know what I'm saying? Only thing you really dealing with is just being away, locked up. You can't get out and move
yeah,
around, but it ain't the same type of high level dealing with everything else on top of that. Like now, have if you ain't got no money coming in, you ain't got no food, you ain't got no money on the books to get no commissary, then you ain't really getting fed much. Then if you not in Cook County, if you in a gang, if you one gang in the front, neutrons in the middle, other gang in the back. So if you ain't following all of that, if and you don't know none of that, you ain't about none of that, it's gonna be, it's a different world.
can't drive drunk, man. You got to pay.
Exactly.
Um, you in DuPage. How long were you in the jail? How long were you fighting your case?
I
Or
fought my case for um fought my case for like 6.5 months. I had a public pretender. Um I ain't really, I didn't have no money for my lawyer. My bond was 250,000, 25 to walk. Again, I said public pretender. Yeah, that was right. Because all she did was pretend. She didn't do nothing. She didn't try to fight for me. It was my first felony. I had a bunch of misdemeanors, but it wasn't no misdemeanors like nothing like that. Just some weed cases and shit like that. But on that case, my armed robbery, she didn't try to get me anything under. I was like trying to get the minimum of my class X. I had a class X felony, which carry 6 to 30. You think they would have my first felony? She would have tried to get me 6, my public pretender, but
right,
nah. They said 8. She was running with 8. That's it. Oh, well, they said 8 years. I'm like, listen, lady, I do know a little bit. You know what I'm saying? It's my first case. I can't get no. I know it's not probation, but damn, at least let me get 6. Nah, they was coming with 8. And then after they told me 8, and I was like thinking about fighting it because it was kind of a fluky armed robbery. You know what I'm saying? I really poked somebody for fun. I ain't really get much out of it. So I was trying to get it dropped down to like an aggravated robbery or something like that.
hmm
And she wasn't trying to hear it. She was like, "Well, your rappies are coming to court on you." And sure enough, shit, when it was all said and done, they was there.
And if y'all don't know that Rappy's co-defendants,
Right.
I want to get into that real quick. There's a couple more. Man, there's a bunch of questions I want to ask you,
Go
but
ahead, shoot.
dealing with co-defendant, a lot of the youngest need to know this. I mean, you shine a light on it, but explain to the youth, or explain, not even just the youth, people our age, explain to anybody that's in the streets the reality of what happens when the detectives go to your co-defendant and say, "Hey, you facing 50 or you facing 20."
Man,
Just break.
just
I broke it down in plenty of ways, but I like to give certain brothers the opportunity to break that down that already went through it.
yeah, I mean, pretty much, a lot of times we be running with people thinking, they solid or they stand up, like, man, I was one of them dudes. Like I tell everybody now, I've developed into a great leader, but it took me being a good follower to become a good leader. You know what I'm saying? I went through a lot of, I was the type of dude when I first, like as Nip said, when I jumped off the stoop, You know what I'm saying? I was one of them dudes that my homeboys that I was with at the time. I was a soldier. You feel me? So I pretty much felt like I would do anything for my homies at that point in my life. I remember those feelings. I remember those emotions. Like my guys, my homeboys become. You know what I'm saying? These my family. I ain't really close with my family, so my homeboys in the streets were my people, and I would do anything for them. I was one of them people. But when it all came down to it, and them same dudes that I would do anything for, when it came to that time when them people was talking about, oh, it's somebody got to go down and who did what and all of this and that, they wasn't the same people I was to them. So what y'all need to understand out here is like a lot of times we be trying to be loyal to the wrong people, man, and calling ourselves like these the guys and ooh, whatever. And a lot of times when it come down to push and shove, them same people you willing to do anything for ain't willing to do the same for you, especially when it come to people in the street. Not and it's sometimes people ain't when it come to them, they talking about that real time. I mean, I seen a lot of dudes fold, and I can tell you a lot of my homies who've been through kind of similar situations as I have, who've been through the same scenario where dudes we grew up with, they was get money together, and next thing you know somebody get booked, next thing you know they all get booked, and everybody getting brought in for questioning. So like it's just one of those things. Everybody think yo homies, gang, gang, gang. Gang ain't gonna do nothing for you when you doing that time. You ain't gonna hear from gang when it's time for them people tell you to go sit in that cell and you need some money on your books. Gang ain't finna be answering the phone for you. Gang ain't finna be sending you them kites you need. And when them calendars get to passing you and you talking about, man, what's going on out there in the world, you ain't gonna hear from nobody, man. It's gonna be you, your celly, and that cell block.
And your mama,
Your mama. You know what I'm saying?
at best.
In my case, it was my granny,
Yeah.
God rest her soul.
To the women, man, it's unfortunate. I mean, I'm gonna speak on mine. I made the decision that put me where I went, and it's unfortunate from my perspective. I put my loved ones through it, but salute to the women, man. For me, I had my mama. He said his grandma. It's a common theme, man. We scream gang. We do all that. But man, everybody's not who they say they are. Another question. He says, "How old are you?"
I'm 41. I just turned 41 in August.
All right. So I want to get back in to after the jail. How many prisons did you hit? Did you go to the
Uh so I went to prison two different occasions. When I got out, my first bid I was only in I went to a bunch of minimums. Robinson, I was in Southwestern for I think 18 months, and then they transferred me down to Vienna, and I paroled from Vienna. My second stretch I didn't do only did 90 days, and I was in Vandalia and Stateville. That was it, receiving, and then uh that was it, Vandalia.
you
So
said
I touched five prisons total, six prisons total.
second stint, was that like a violation or like a
It was I got okay, so I came home from parole after my armed robbery. This is another thing, like we be if you don't, it was crazy about the system, man. And I don't mean to like veer off for real quick, but
go
it's
ahead.
crazy when we get out from doing time. All of us, I'm pretty sure we've been through it. At least in my case, when I came home, I was going on 25 years old. I was 6 months to 25. So I came home. I tried to do the straight life, get it. My mom and my stepdad set me up with a little job. But at the same time, you come home, you going back to the same area, the same people. And I'm working a little job trying to do the right thing, but this job ain't paying me shit because now I got a child. I found out I had a son when I was in jail. So I'm gotta do that. I gotta do my father thing. And you we be looking for money like we was getting before we left. So if you have never learned how to adjust to that coming back home and dealing with being a normal person, that's another thing that can get brothers on, especially when they go back to the same area. So after like 6 months of coming home, being on the straight and narrow, long story short, I got back in the streets, got back to doing what I was doing, got booked on another case, a controlled substance case, and that's why I ended up in Cook County. I was on probation, violated that like 3 or 4 times. It gave me time after time, but I was young. I was 25. The
Yeah,
people at home was telling me, my uncles and everybody, oh, you ain't gonna be nothing. All you gonna do is go in our jail. So when you hearing that a lot of your life, man, eventually you start doing that. You know what I'm saying? You start doing what you're hearing. People telling you around you that you ain't gonna amount to nothing. You go amount to the same thing as your father, or people that's doing wrong in your family, then eventually that's what you start doing.
You basically, it's almost like you're being indoctrinated through their own self hate. I know me coming up, I had family members. Hey, it is what it is. I had people in the community. They were so negative and so down.
Yes. Hmm.
They didn't speak life into me.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
And that's huge, bro.
yeah, they spoke prison. They spoke, and me being young and impressionable. And even if you look, when you look at medical fact, the frontal lobe or the frontal cortex isn't even fully functional, fully at its highest standard of capability till 25.
Exactly.
Study about that. You don't even
Hmm.
know who you are until 25.
Right.
So if
Yeah.
you're in an environment where negativity, you see negativity, people are speaking negativity, it's gonna have an effect.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of the youth end up going down the wrong path, man. We got to get better. We got to start speaking life. We got to drop jewel. We got to take time, be patient,
Be
man.
patient. Yeah. Yeah. And just understand, like, my thing is understanding I got 3 kids, and
Mhm.
and I try to tell people what I just had a conversation with my friends a few weeks ago. And my thing is, like, is if you dealing with a lot of trauma at home, being told, because whether it's physical or mental abuse, trauma is trauma. You know what I'm saying? When our first line, we supposed to learn our first love from the people around us, meaning our family, our friends, aunts and uncles and shit like that. So if you don't get your first line of first people that's supposed to teach you about love isn't showing you love and teaching you words of like everybody else, you ain't hearing your other friends or other people ain't hearing that you go to school with and shit. You like, damn. So why am I hearing this? And I'll be hollering at some of my friends. They don't be going through the same shit at the crib. So that's trauma right there. Then you got for me, when I got moved into a community where it was predominantly white, now I'm dealing with that trauma from, being moved to a different situation, and I have to adjust to that, getting followed by the police, harassed by people at school. What am I doing at the school? That type of shit. Then becoming a teenager and starting to figure out like, damn, well, maybe the world don't really like me. You feel me? And this shit ain't for me. So maybe this other streets is for me. I tried to play sports. My mom pulled me from that. So I'm like, man, well, fuck it then. Maybe the streets is the only thing for me. So that's the only place I was feeling love, and that's why I turned to it the way I did. So we have to address those issues and make sure we not pushing. Some parents don't even realize, and people that they're supposed to show these kids love, they don't even realize what the shit we pushing into these kids and forcing them to go a direction where we could literally just say something nice to them and help pull them up. You know what I'm saying?
Especially now, especially the way things are now with cyberbullying, social media, the pressure that's on the kids now. The kids feel like they got to do a fashion show to go to school, man.
Oh yeah.
We
Mm-hmm.
felt like when we were younger, but now because of social media and all,
Social media.
it's crazy.
This.
So I want to touch on real. I always ask people this because you say you touch 5 different spots, right?
Yeah.
What is one moment that stuck out to you that either taught you a lesson or woke you up, or you were like, "Oh, I got to get up out of here." I know you say you did two separate stints. One
Yeah.
was days, but was there a moment, or did you see something crazy that you were like, "Oh, I'm really in prison,"
Yeah.
or
When I seen something crazy, when I was in a minimum actually in Vienna, getting ready to go home. Like I think I had like a few weeks left, and I had just got out of SIG, and they, since they knew I was getting ready to go home, they made me spend my last 45 days in receiving. So I was in receiving, just out of SIG, and like they used to bring the new guys on the new to receiving. So, and there was a bunch of pods you could see around because it was dorms and receiving. So I remember there was one of these younger cat got into it with the CO, man. He got to fight with somebody, got into it with the CO, and he poked him in the eye with a fucking with a pencil, bro. And I was like, oh shit. He hit the CO with the CO with a pencil in the eye. And this was a minimum. So I'm like, what the fuck? Like, damn. You know what I'm saying? And I was tweaking on it because I'm like, man, I'm getting ready to go home. And this shit happening, like, oh, I really got to get out of here. Like, this ain't for me. You know what I'm saying? But I had already been gone. And,
yeah,
and so it was just tripped out because I had already been gone, but now I'm starting to adjust to getting ready to get out, and I'm like, oh yeah, this ain't for me. When you start getting ready to go home, it's everything bothering you now. Everything you don't want to deal with none of that shit no more.
they uh they dropped me. I started in a level 4 maximum security, and they dropped me to the lowest level institution you go, and I went
Mm-hmm.
time with guys that had life, 20 plus years, to guys that were coming straight from the jail.
Right.
That was an experience.
Mm-hmm. Because they
So,
were probably moving a lot different than you was.
oh man, but it prepared me because I had been gone for so long. It helped prepare me because I was like, okay, my wife was. I got married before I came home, and she used to tell me, she was like, hey, these are the guys you're gonna be dealing with out here.
Right, right, right. It
No,
was,
but to that, what I was gonna say is me doing time in the maxes and the lows. It seemed like more crazy stuff happened in the lows.
yeah, and that's only because I agree with you on that because that's only because it ain't a lot of brothers who doing a whole lot of time. You know what I'm saying?
Right?
When you're
Yeah.
around them brothers who doing some time, it's gonna be a little more controlled area. At least
Back.
back in 2002 to the
Yeah.
2007 when I was going. So
Mm.
like, I mean, it was. I don't know how it is now, but I know at least then when you was going to them, like even them high, the mediums, them high mediums and max, at least in Illinois, it was a little more respect, and the brothers knew that like it wasn't certain shit you could and could not do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Especially with when them cats who's been they've been there for a long time. You ain't finna come up here disrupting where they stay, and you gonna come and go and come after them and go home before them. You're not finna do that. You know what I'm saying?
Let me ask you this. I asked Dame just as we were wrapping it up, so we didn't really get to go into it. Maybe you can shine a light on this because this is one of the questions they had asked on a TikTok platform.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, VA. I said it in VA there was actually no effect. It didn't really bother anything, have any impact. But in Chicago, did race have a play in the system?
Did what? What's
Did,
that?
did race have a play in the system in Illinois?
Oh, that I do not know. Like I mean, I don't know if they sent you places. Oh well, you know what? They did do that for because like I remember at Jacksonville in Jacksonville they sent um they were sending like the guys like the white Aryan Nation guys to Jacksonville,
Mm.
Vienna. You know what I'm saying?
Was
That race.
was politics impacted? Like, how were the? I guess what I was saying. How were the politics when prison? Was it? Did a certain race group run the prison? Was it gangs? Was it
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, no, it was yes, it was politics. Like it was gang, but they had calmed that down by the time I got there. In the early '90s in Chicago was a lot more crazier than it is now. But
right?
the COs and the government had got control of it because it was out of control for a while. But by the time I got to prison, they had got their prisons back.
Got you. Got you. That similar thing happened in VA. I think
Mm-hmm.
people always talk about how it was, and then when I came in the system, they're like, "Oh, things had just changed." Um, so we're going through. We went through, the prison run for the most part. I want to get into present day. You've been home obviously for a minute now,
Yeah, yeah,
but now it's been scrolling. You're a gym owner. You spoke about it, you're a pro MMA fighter, bare knuckle boxing, father. I think you said you had 3 children,
three
correct?
kids. Yep.
Um, you're being positive. How did you get here? And did you think you were gonna get here? Which you probably did. A lot of us, I know I did. Every time I'm like, yo, this is where I'm going.
All right.
Maybe you did. Maybe you thought you were going somewhere. I don't know. But that day you came home to where you're at now, what was the process like? Was it a struggle? Was
Oh yeah,
it
yeah,
absolute
yeah. It was definitely a struggle, man. Because when, like I said, when I first came home, I didn't know what the hell I was gonna do. I didn't. I like. I hadn't. I was in the. I knew when I went to jail. I really like. I was in the working out before I went in, but I really got into it, and just that's how I did my time. Just every day working out. Except I work out pretty much 6 days a week. That's what helped me get through doing time. Like everybody had their ways they did it. Some people read or write or go on a lot of visits. For me, it was the working out. I didn't get that many visits. You know what I'm saying? No, only I got one visit my whole 42 months from my grandmother and my grandfather. So pretty much I knew nobody was coming to see me. I wasn't getting a lot of mail. I was working in the kitchen to hustle and eat. So to me, the only way I was going to get through that was working out. So I really just indulged myself in working out. My goal was to be getting into like bodybuilding initially, but
mm,
then I was like, I heard about MMA when I came home, and one of my homeboys was like, "Man, you should look into that. You know, you love, you be fighting with everybody. You get shoot the fair one with anyone."
They call them transferable skills right there.
Exactly, right. So I'm like, man, no, no. Then I kept playing the streets, kept playing the streets, playing the streets. Then my daughter was born, and then I was like, man, I got to do something because I don't want to get locked up again. My daughter just was born, and then so I got a job, started working this job, gave up the streets, got harassed by the police again. They thought I was selling drugs. They put me in an investigation for 2 years. Got nothing out of that. Um, then my son was born, and then I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna try fighting. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna try this mixed martial arts shit because I used to just watch it all the time, all day, get the pay-per-views and all of that. So then I just tried it, and I ended up being pretty good at it. 6 months later, I was fighting. You know what I'm saying? And then the rest is just history.
What's your training regimen? What's your training schedule look like?
Well, when I'm training for fights, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. Well, every day I'm doing my spice training specific. So I'm either my Mondays I usually do my wall work, my MMA wall work, grappling, then sparring, and then Tuesday is my MMA all day, just MMA work. Wednesdays jujitsu, and then I do my strength and conditioning after that. Thursdays conditioning, wrestling. Friday is just boxing, and then Saturday is just conditioning. That's it. And then it just varies depending on what I got going on. Like if now, right now, since I'm doing bare knuckle, getting ready to do bare knuckle, now I just focus strictly on boxing. That's it.
But you're doing all that training, running the gym, being a father. You're doing all that. I don't even like using the term, but you're doing it as an ex-felon. Um, for sake of terms, are there any moments even now after all the this time accomplishing some of the things you already? I'm sure you still got a list of things you want to keep.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Are there any moments where you run into somebody where they try to make you feel or remind you? Have you ever had any awkward moments where it's came up?
Oh
Any?
yeah. Yeah. People always remind me. That's why, like right now, I'm in the process of getting my background expunged,
Mhm.
um, or sealed. I can't get it expunged because my class X, I can't get that expunged, but they said I can get it sealed. So but yes, I have moments, especially like dealing with people in certain communities, being a business owner. When I get to telling my story, oh, what I never even you don't even look like the type. I heard that so many times. You don't look like the type. The type of what? You know what I'm saying? Like there's a certain type, a criteria you're supposed to look like when they lock your ass up. I don't think so. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Like they don't care if they feel like, especially out here, if somebody said you blink too long at them, they want to come holler at you. So or look too long at them. So it's like, yeah, I get those moments, but now before I used to be ashamed of it. You know what I'm saying? Because that's how uh society have us feeling like we should be ashamed of it, but not. They don't tell you. They tell us to be ashamed of going to jail, but they don't tell you why we're the ones picked out to go to jail over our other counterparts, like white counterparts, or what I'm saying. Latinos go through the same level as us, but you don't see too many Asian people locked up. You don't see too many white dudes locked up. I mean, more of these lately in the last 10 years because it's become more of a money grab. But if you still look around the whole country as a whole, it's majority there's blacks and Latinos that are incarcerated.
Yeah,
So
numbers definitely don't lie. The and I just want to speak to the point where you're at matters when you're coming up. Who you're around, Matt. We just kind of touched on that. You grow up in an environment and you're gangbanging at an early age because your cousins, that's what they into, your uncles, etc. And you don't got you a 12-year-old kid on the block and you got grown men applying pressure. I mean, come on, man.
yeah, I mean that's like, and a lot of, and that's why I hate hearing people say, like, especially on social media, when all of that race shit was going on, people was like, oh well, you supposed to get yourself off by your bootstraps. And well, if you got to understand the situation and the circumstances that some people is dealt. Like I was blessed enough to, when I came home, I had a
Uh-oh, technical difficulties. As we sit here and wait, you back up here.
yeah. So
I'm about to do. The, the,
No, my bad.
it,
Somebody called me. I'm sorry.
Good.
But yes, for me, luckily I was blessed enough to have somebody like my family to fall back on when I came home to help guide me in a direction to at least get on some type of track about my life, because I know a lot of brothers who just came home same time as I did, didn't have nobody to go home
Yeah,
to. They had to take care of the whole house, so they right back. They got shot and died, and you know I know a whole bunch of homies that came home the same time as I did, and a lot of them dead. You know what I'm saying? So it's some people don't have the same scenarios and situations, so it kind of makes it all messed up when you think about it in that perspective.
most definitely, man. I mean, again, numbers don't lie. We see who's populating the prisons. I will still say though, at the end of the day, we have the ability to make a choice, man. So anybody that's any circumstance, any situation, understand you have the ability to make a choice. You don't have to move a certain way. Is it a little bit harder sometimes? Yeah, it definitely is to go against the crowd or go a different direction, but it could be done. Plenty people have done. Um,
It's, you're right about that. Definitely be done, and a lot of it has to do with just, man, your determination and resilience, man. That's what a lot of it is. Because, man, this I would be lying if I was to tell you, like, go just to piggyback off what you said earlier. I didn't. If I would, I knew I was gonna do something. I just didn't know what it was gonna be. You know what I'm saying? And it's just I knew. Like, I remember one time my when I came home, one of my stepdad's friend owned a barbershop, and he was like, man, what you don't know what you're gonna do when you know what your life goal is and go out the bam. And he kind of like made me, put me on the spot. I'm like, man, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really don't. You know what I'm saying? I'm fresh out. All I'm doing is working a job. It's a dead end job. It was doing
yeah,
it because my baby mom wanted me to. And then he just kept drilling me. And so my girl at the time, my ex, she was like making me feel bad about that shit on the car ride home. You ain't about, you don't even know what you want to do, and like all of that type of shit, like putting me down. Like, this was supposed to be my chick. So then at that moment, I was like, man, I got to figure something out, man, because I was tired of people just looking at me like I wasn't worth anything. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So I really just got after that fighting, man, and that was it. It changed everything.
I went through the same. I think a lot of guys coming home from prison, they go through that where, especially guys that have changed and want to change and no longer are who they once were. You got to learn yourself over again in society. You got to figure some things out about where you want to go, and then you got to do. It's like you got to relearn yourself. You know,
Mm-hmm.
introduce yourself. I recently went through that, and it's a process. You know what I'm saying? But again, it's something that can be done. You got to find a path, and you got to pursue it. Everybody,
Yep.
I don't want to say you got to. You do what you want to do ultimately. But everybody that I've seen successful that came home from prison, they set a path. Whether it
Mm-hmm.
be the store manager at Dollar General, whether it was they wanted to open up their own lounge, whatever, they went in it and they're successful. They're still here. I don't know if that's the solution to it all, but hey, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, and one thing people got to understand, like, especially for you brothers, for brothers who coming out, and like, man, it like, I like to quote a lot of, I did a lot of reading. That's one thing I appreciate from going to prison. It taught me a lot of things about myself. It taught me how to sit down and read a book to understand what we working up against, understanding the laws, understand how people look at us, how I approach things. So doing all of that, I learned, like, man, it's books I read, and I try to understand things. And one of the things Nipsey used to always say, I love Nipsey for what he was doing at the time. And he always said, anything you trying to do out here, it ain't gonna be easy, man. Ain't nothing about this journey gonna be easy. So I just try to keep that in my mind when shit get hard, and I start having, I'm human. I have thoughts all the time when shit get rough. Maybe I can get back to the streets, but then I'd be like, think back on it. I came too far to turn back. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're talking about. There's a piece where he says he trained his mind into every time a hurdle comes up, an obstacle, it's supposed to be this way.
Exactly.
It,
Yep.
getting closer to what he's trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
That is everything.
Yep.
Um, we getting ready to bring this thing, but I gotta give you a chance to talk about the gym. You gotta talk about the gym. You talked a little bit about fighting, but talk about thoroughbred. Talk about what's going on at the gym. Talk about what you're doing with the youth. Just talk about anything that's going on up there, man. Why everybody needs to talk about thoroughbred. Tap in. They heard a little bit about your story, and they seen, that you talked about the changes. What's going on in Thoroughbred?
Thoroughbred Fitness, man, we try. Well, I'm trying right now. My goal, I'm just trying to push more, helping people overcome the stigmas of being a youth and this out here, no matter what part of the. I'm in my gym is in the west suburbs, so I'm trying to help any of these kids out here who coming from the city who trying to find a way who is not good at football or basketball or the normal sports that everybody else is playing. There's other things you can do. Like it's a kid right now that I'm working with. He 14 years old, man. He, in Latin gangs and shit like that, doing dumb shit. And
Hmm.
I'm telling him, like, man, bro, you 14. If you just let me, you a big 14-year-old. And I'm like, man, you got some hands. I can tell you've been in a few fights. Just work with me until you get out of high school, man. I guarantee you can at least be making you some money and
Yeah,
you're not gonna be following the same footsteps as everybody around you, bro. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I be trying to do for the kids because for me, if I would have just had somebody to reach out and say, "Hey, Sinatra, look, check it out," you know what I'm saying? Man, let's go to the gym. Let's go work out. Let's go learn some boxing. Let's go learn how to do this or whatever. I would have never ended up in the situation I was, as a young kid going to the streets and doing stuff like that, opposed to, you know, um, like not having nobody around. You know what I mean?
right. And shout out to anybody that steps in nowadays, mentors the youth, patient with the youth, communicates with the youth. Stop thinking that the younger generations got to come to you.
Yeah, and
You-
and a lot of times, and not to cut you off, but a lot of times it's just a lot. Some of these kids quiet. Like I was a shy, quiet kid, and I got kids that I teach right now. They shy and they quiet at first. Their parents come to me. They get bullied and this and that. They don't got a lot of friends. But after about 3 4 months working with me, man, you'll be surprised what just a little boxing and a little kickboxing and jujitsu would do for your mentality. Because then you like, okay, man, I can really learn this and it's gonna transfer over for the rest of my life. It's something I can carry with me, you know, till I'm 18, 19 years old. Like it's just it's one of those things that if everybody what I tell everybody, excuse me, what I tell everybody is once you do it for the first time and you everybody gets addicted to it. It's not one person I know that did anything with combat sports, whether it be kickboxing, boxing, jiu-jitsu, any person that I've showed it to, I don't care how old or young, they fall in love with it.
yeah, I think I obviously nowhere, but the little bit that I've dabbled in, it always built confidence.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of a guy I trained with, so motivate was part of training, challenging me to do certain things physically. I remember before we started, we had to run 20 laps, stuff like that. Stuff I
Right.
thought I'd be able to
To
do.
do, right, exactly.
Yeah. Um, I'm gonna bring this to a head. I ask everybody at the end. I always ask if there's one thing you want to say, one message that you think needs to be heard, whether it comes to the youth. Maybe it's the greatest lesson you've learned in life, or whatever it is, something that you feel needs to be heard. Um, the floor is yours, brother.
Only thing I say is to everybody is, man, just never give up. Don't let nobody. This is what I say to my kids. And my she's an athlete. She plays 3 different sports. My son, I tell him all the time, don't ever let nobody tell you what you can't do or what you're not capable of. Even if it's coming from me or somebody you love.
Mhm.
They might be saying it because they don't see what you have in yourself. But if you know what you got in yourself, don't ever let nobody tell you what you can't do, what you can't accomplish, and what you can't achieve in this life because you talking to a man. I'm a 3 time felon. Everybody counted me out from. I can name family members and close people that I was, a woman that I was engaged to, people that I love and close dear that was dear to me told me I would have never achieved anything, and now I'm doing everything that I said I was going to do. I didn't do it by the world standards. I did it by my own standards because I always believed in me and I always knew I was going to do something. So as long as everybody keep that attitude and just try to be the best you can be, man, every day ain't gonna be a good day. Every day ain't gonna be easy. And it's always gonna be hard for anything you're trying to achieve, period.
Right. Facts. Bottom line, we say it often on this podcast. Keep going.
Keep going.
Struggle is part of the process. Embrace it. No struggle, no process, man. Just like
You
weights, you working out, you got to break the muscle down and build it back up. No what they say, no pain, no gain.
no pain, no gain. And think
Yeah,
about it now, everybody want the end result, but they don't want to go through the process to get that end result. And the process, like Inky Johnson say, the process is just as important as the end result.
you better bet it. So, man, I just want to say thank you again for hopping up here. Anybody that wants to follow Sinatra Pool, you can follow him on IG at Thoroughbred Fitness. Um,
My
uh,
fighter page, Sinatra Black Mamba.
yeah,
That's where I have all my fight updates. But yeah, check me out. Tap me in.
support him. And also he's the owner of Thoroughbred Fitness as well, man. So if you're in the area, the west suburbs of Chicago, swing through there, get down, get some good action and some exercise, all that good stuff, man.
Mm-hmm.
Salute to you, brother. We're gonna have you back up here for the Chicago panel, man.
Yes, sir. Please do, man. I'm all for this, bro. This is right up my alley.
Yeah, we just getting we gonna dig into we got so many different topics. The Chicago panel is gonna be imperative because I'm from Chicago. People take it the wrong way, and I don't mean it in the wrong, but I always felt like the heartbeat. We smack dab in the
In
middle
the
of
middle, we the heartbeat of America, baby.
know what I'm saying? There's a lot going on. So I definitely want to get y'all brothers up here, man. Salute to Dane. Salute to everybody. I think I got a brother named Joe. We got a whole bunch of people popping up here, man.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, man. Thank you. Sinatra, any
Thank
closing?
you, bro. Thank you. Hey, only closing words I got is everybody stay strong, man. I know everybody endure hard times, but as long as we stay positive and stick together and don't let this government put against each other, we'll be all right.
Yeah, man. Be free thinkers, man. I mean, hey, law and order, yeah, we get that, but start thinking outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
Man, something we got to start making changes for real. It starts with conversation and then starts with action.
Exactly.
The next time, man, D100 TV. Thank you for locking in. Anybody that's been sharing, commenting, subscribing, all that, we appreciate y'all. Again, follow Sinatra Pool either at Sinatra Black Mamba on IG. We got another comment. He said, "Peace, Joe."
Peace, my man.
Peace, man. And then you can also follow Sinatra at Thoroughbred Fitness, which is also the gym that he owns, man. Thank you again. Till next
Thank
time.
you, brother. Peace and blessings.
Yeah, peace and blessings to you. Peace and blessings to everybody. Y'all be safe, man.
Peace, y'all. Y'all
Hey,
be easy.
yeah, be easy. Time is something you can't get back, so cherish it. Till next
Yep.
time. Peace.
Peace.